My buddy Mike has a beach house on the Jersey Shore. Calling it a beautiful property would be an understatement. It's magnificent. Or at least, to someone like me who never came from much, that's what it feels like. I obviously don't know the history to well, it's not my family's house. After all, but from what I do know, that house has been in Mike's family for generations. His grandparents had been trying to use it as their permanent residence for the longest time, but unfortunately, they recently passed away. Without anyone living there now, the house is dormant most of the time. Most of Mike's extended family lives on the West Coast, and his parents are too busy to make use of it. The upside to an otherwise sad situation, though, is that Mike essentially has free access to the place whenever he wants. I'm pretty sure it was Mike's dad's intention to rent the house out to make some extra cash, but as far as I know, that plan hasn't gone anywhere. It's not exactly easy to find someone willing to rent a beach house during the off-season, so you can't really blame the guy. It was sometime in mid-July when Mike hit me up and asked if I wanted to come down for the weekend. He didn't have to twist my arm. I had nothing going on, and the thought of kicking back at a beach house, especially one that nice, was an easy yes. His plan was simple. We'd hang out, maybe hit the beach during the day, then head to the boardwalk at night and just enjoy the shore for what it was. It wasn't some crazy party weekend, just a chill escape from the usual. Honestly, I was looking forward to it. Mike and I live pretty close to each other, so he was going to pick me up and drive us down that Friday. I packed a duffel, tossed it in his trunk, and we made the drive down. The first night was chill. We got in around 6 o'clock, dropped our stuff in the upstairs bedrooms, and settled in. The house had that cozy, slightly musty beach house smell, a mix of salt air and old wood. Not in a bad way, more like history. You could tell it had seen decades of family summers. After grabbing a quick bite from a sub shop nearby, we decided to walk the beach for a bit, just to take in the evening. Mike had brought a couple of fishing rods, so we figured we'd try our luck for a while. It wasn't really about catching anything, it was more about just being out there. At one point, we stumbled across a pair of girls about our age walking barefoot along the shoreline. Mike, being Mike, struck up a conversation right away. They were locals, or at least semi-locals, and it turned into one of those low-stakes, slightly flirtatious interactions that happen naturally when you're young and on the beach at night. We got their numbers, and they continued on while we kept fishing. There were still a good number of people around since it was peak season, but Mike knew all the quiet pockets, private beach access, tucked away dune paths, little spots between houses where the lights didn't reach. We ended up finding a nice stretch to ourselves where the only sounds were the water and the wind. It was the kind of night that made you forget about real life for a bit. The next morning, we woke up around 9 o'clock and decided to go for a run along the boardwalk. It was already warm out, but a breeze off the ocean made it bearable. We weren't doing anything intense, just a couple of miles to get the blood flowing. Mike's pretty active, and I've been trying to stay in shape, so it felt good to move after a night of lounging around. The rest of the day slipped by without us even noticing. Later that evening, Mike floated the idea of hitting a few bars in Seaside. It sounded fun in theory, but we were both wiped. The idea of waiting in lines and yelling over music didn't match how our bodies felt after a full day in the sun. We ended up crashing early instead. Sometime after midnight, I woke up to a shrill, piercing beeping. At first, I thought it was part of a dream, but after a second or two of lying in the dark, I realized it was real. It sounded like a smoke detector. One of those sharp, high-pitched alarms that cuts straight through your skull. I threw myself out of bed and started scanning my surroundings to figure out where it was coming from. It didn't sound like it was coming from my room or anywhere else on the second floor. After focusing for a few more seconds, I got the impression it was coming from above me. Without thinking, I yanked my bedroom door open and made a beeline for Mike's room. I jolted him awake and told him to follow me. He immediately caught on and hurried after me, not even bothering to put a shirt on. As if our lives depended on it, we bolted up the stairs, completely unsure of what we'd be running into. The third floor was mostly dark, except for a bit of moonlight leaking through the hallway window. We flipped the lights on and started scanning the space, still expecting to see or smell something burning. But there was nothing. No smoke. No flickering lights. No fire. It was baffling. Eventually, after some painfully irritating minutes of searching for the source of that god-awful noise, I found something. In one of the bedrooms, tucked neatly under a pillow, was a small black device. Before calling Mike into the room, I decided to examine it myself, mostly out of pure confusion. It was about the size of a walkie-talkie, all black with the exception of a blinking red light on top. That was it. No buttons, no stickers, no screen. Just a smooth, jet black casing, that blinking light, and a single switch on the side. Or at least, what looked like a switch. I flipped it off, and the beeping stopped immediately. Mike entered the room just as I did that. His eyes flicked from the bed to me to the device in my hand. Neither of us said anything at first. We locked eyes, and I could tell he was just as confused, just as scared as I was. After a few more seconds of silence, he asked if I had ever seen that thing before. I said no, and asked him the same. He also said no. For the next hour, we tried figuring out what it was, how it had gotten there, and what had triggered it. But no answer we came up with felt satisfying. Mike swore none of his family had been in that house in ages. I believed him. Why would he lie? And who the hell would plant something like that in their own home? You might think it was for safety or as a backup for a faulty smoke detector. But again, there was no fire. So it hadn't prevented anything. And then came the scariest part, the question of how it had been triggered. We were sitting in Mike's room in the dark, when a terrifying thought hit me. I couldn't believe it hadn't occurred to me earlier. The switch. I pulled the device out again and flipped the switch on and off. You guessed it, the shrill beeping started again and stopped when I flipped it off. Both of us froze. Mike whispered, "Oh my God." The thought hit us both at the same time. The only way to operate the device was by hand. Someone else had been in the house. We didn't waste time. Mike dialed the police while I locked the door and barricaded it as best I could. We waited for what felt like forever until finally the police showed up. We rushed downstairs to meet them. After giving them a brief explanation, they did a full sweep of the house while we waited outside by the front door. When they finally came back, what they told us was horrifying. Every single window on the third floor had been thrown wide open, even the bathroom windows. And it wasn't just that. The beds were flipped, drawers pulled out, clothes and stuff strewn across the floor. The room where I'd found the device had been ransacked, but it had been totally neat just minutes before. I felt like I was losing my mind, then so did Mike. But after being escorted upstairs by the officers, we had no choice but to accept the reality. The officers didn't find much else. No one hiding, no fingerprints, no weapons. After another 20 minutes, they told us to make sure the windows were locked from now on, and to call again if anything else happened. Then they left. Mike and I didn't feel safe staying in that house anymore, after someone, probably crazy or on drugs, had messed with us in such an unexplainable way. But we didn't have much of a choice. We told ourselves we'd de-sleep there the rest of the night and leave early in the morning. And that's what we did. Luckily, whoever had been there must have left, because nothing else happened that night. There are still parts of that night I can't explain, and I can only imagine what Mike must be feeling. For all we know, whoever had been in that house might have never left.